This man, Micah Parsons, he's addicted to making Cowboys fans lose their ish. And it's mainly because he speaks his mind. He says exactly what he feels, and he says exactly what he believes his truth is. And I gotta be honest, I admire that. I operate the same way. Regardless of who feels what way about it, I'm gonna say exactly what I think, however I want to say it. But that don't mean that people ain't gonna have stuff to say about that though, right? Let's get into Micah Parsons' interview today with James Slater, where he discussed his absence from OTAs, challenging Mike Zimmer, and some other things. Y'all be sure to subscribe, bro. It's still a huge percentage of y'all watching these videos does not subscribe. Subscribe for your boy. Let's get right into it. All right, we about to be rocking with James Slater for this one at Slater NFL. We caught up with Micah Parsons today, and he didn't shy away from questions about his absence from voluntary OTAs, the need to build chemistry, and his relationship with new DC Mike Zimmer. Worth a read versus 140 characters. A thread. Let's get right into this, and I'll be the first to admit I want to set the table properly. You can go on my channel and see I was one of the people that didn't necessarily have an issue with Micah Parsons missing OTAs or being absent from OTAs, but I did call into question his consistency as far as the message that he's trying to get across. I have no issue with you missing OTAs, but you can't miss OTAs and at the same time be talking about being a better leader all summer, because that directly conflicts with that sentiment, right? So that's where I stood. I didn't think that it was a code red situation. We needed to trade Micah and he was a terrible teammate and all this stuff. No, I just simply thought it was a missed opportunity to step into a role, right? But I am willing to allow my mind to be changed if Micah Parsons can articulate a valid reasoning behind why he did what he did, and if it makes sense. And right here, I read over this a little bit already. Right here, he does present some of that valid reasoning. So let's get right into it. Micah talks about his thoughts on voluntary OTAs and discusses Aaron Donald's absence and success. This is one of the excerpts that I'm sure is going to make people feel some type of way, and I actually have something to say about this specific part, right? But it says, yeah, I think the more years you have, the more you understand that there's also like the business side to it. And whether I like it or not, there's rookies or people I came with that's not even here anymore. And I think that's what camp is for. I mean, there was a time where Aaron Donald didn't even go to camp and he won Defensive Player of the Year and then went to the playoffs. Like, are we forgetting these times? Like, we wasn't talking about the best defensive player wasn't even in camp, and we're in mini camps, voluntary at that. So, camp was something that is mandatory. So I'm just looking at it as a time for my body to heal. I'm playing as an undersized rusher who is banged up every year. So I'm just letting my body heal. I'm just trying to grow, strengthen, and really just get ready for the year. Okay, I'm gonna be real. People can go either way with this particular quote right here, because I know upon initially reading this, while I do completely understand the logic, what he's talking about towards the bottom half of this, as far as being an undersized rusher who's banged up every year, trying to let his body heal, just trying to grow, strengthen, and really just get ready for the year. I completely understand that, and that's a valid reasoning. That's completely valid, and I get it. What I didn't like in this particular excerpt, however, is him making the comparison to Aaron Donald. Everyone tries to make everything equivalent to the other without having any context involved. Context is key to everything. Yes, two situations on its face can be similar. Micah Parsons missed OTA, Aaron Donald missed OTA. The major difference, Micah, and this is the part that you're missing, bro, and I think this is the only part that I'm really trying to get across to you, bro, is Aaron Donald wasn't talking about being a better leader. Aaron Donald wasn't talking about what he was going to do to be a leader. Aaron Donald didn't do multiple interviews about leadership that summer leading up to those missed OTAs. That is the context that is missing, Micah. And I think that part is the part that you have to understand, and maybe you have every right to feel the way you feel, but maybe just in the future, you be a little bit more selective with the things that you decide or the messages that you decide to put out to the audience and put out to your fans and stuff, because those messages, people are going to hold you to it. Aaron Donald didn't talk about those things and then miss OTAs. Otherwise, I'm sure people would have had something to say about that as well. You did. You talked about leadership. You called your current defensive leader out and missed OTAs. So that gave people room to discuss your absence, okay? Whether or not the points that they were making while discussing your absence were valid, that gave people room to discuss your absence because you talked about it and you put yourself in a situation where people were going to be putting a microscope on you and seeing if what you were saying is what you're doing. And that's as simple as that, Micah. And I'm keeping it a buck with you. You have a valid point talking about healing your body and stuff. That is a valid point, and that is within your rights. It is voluntary. That is within your rights. But you cannot make false equivalencies to an Aaron Donald or look at other situations and think they are the same without going and see what those guys were talking about to the media prior to those situations happening. I think that's the key context that's missing here. Now, the next part that he discussed was points to building chemistry around the building or on trips and hangouts in the off season. So this is addressing the chemistry concerns or the chemistry point that I made. It seems like Michael's really addressing a lot of the points that I made in my interview with his brother. So that's kind of interesting. But he says, you ever watch Remember the Titans? We're going to be in Oxford a very, very long time. That's facts. It's a month. There's going to be a lot of chemistry on that field. And that's facts as well. And I think that that's really the time where you see everything. Like, it's hard to really teach someone without pads or true contact or hand points. Like, it's just not realistic. We can't even touch someone or we're going to lose a draft paper or something like that. Like, it's outrageous. And I haven't even really, I think right now it's just more technique. It's a lot of walkthroughs right now. So for my position where I'm at, it's a lot of individual, and I can do a lot individually by myself or with my trainer. Okay, I get this point. This is a fair point to make. This is something that's fair to bring up, but I am also going to say, and I'm just going to bring this up, and this isn't necessarily me refuting what he's saying, or I actually agree with this. This is a very, very good point, and they are going to be in Oxford for a month. I think the point that I just want to kind of bring up is, in an absence of leadership, someone steps up, right? And if your leader or the guy that you're looking at to be the leader, and I don't want to keep making this conversation about leadership because we need to move past that dialogue, but here's the facts, because we're still talking about this because he's talking about it, right? Here's the facts. In an absence of leadership, a leader is always going to step up, or someone that's taking the leadership role is always going to step up. Conflict can be created when that absence is created, that hole is filled, and then the incumbent leader comes back to take their mantle. What if the guy that stepped up in your absence isn't necessarily jiving with the message that you're trying to get across? What if the guy that stepped up in your absence was getting a different message or a different tone across that jives with your guys better? You see what I'm saying? So it just creates the opportunity to make your job leading a little bit harder. That's my only comments as it pertains to that. Beyond that, he's right. He's right with all of this. You can't really touch him. You can't really do a lot in OTAs. So he is right. But there is still 100% value in being there. I just completely detest the idea that there's no value in being at OTAs, because at the end of the day, every guy on that team not named Micah Parsons, they're either going to be afraid to miss OTAs or they wouldn't dare miss OTAs because they don't have the same type of job security as you. And that is something that needs to be kept in mind. Yes, it's voluntary, but if everyone is there outside of 1 to 2 people, then that voluntary tag doesn't look as voluntary anymore. I'm just going to put that out there, right? Especially since guys are getting fined for missing OTAs, Lamar Jackson. But either way, again, good point. Here's the point that I like the most. I like this the most out of anything else that Micah Parsons said. I feel like this is the point right here that he really, really got people on. And he really kind of made me be like, okay, cool. I completely understand. I get the OTA missing thing. I have no issues with that at all, because this right here, what he's about to say, actually makes all the sense in the world. So let's get to this part. James Slater says Michael defends his approach by saying his body is his engine and he has no equity outside of this to offer the Cowboys. That is a powerful statement right there. And I think that is a very, very important statement for all of us to kind of keep in mind as it pertains to being critical about these guys and putting their bodies in harm's way, even in quote-unquote voluntary situations, even though you just said that OTAs are voluntary and you can't actually make contact with each other out there. So technically your body wouldn't be getting put in harm's way. I'm just saying. But anyways, I understand the business side of it too. You know, this is all I have. This is all I have to offer the Cowboys. You know, before you sign a contract, you go through a physical before you do anything. Before even on a team, you got to go to a physical. Like, this is your engine. Like, this is where all my equity lies. I have no equity outside of this to offer them. Availability is the best ability. And if I'm not available when it really matters because I'm banged up or my body's not healing properly, I didn't get all the rehab and treatment that I need to be successful, you know, that's on me, not on them. They'll just find the next me. Interesting. This is a very, very interesting statement. It's kind of loaded. And to be quite honest, I can easily see people going either way with this statement because you just mentioned in the excerpt before this that there's no actual physical contact being made in OTA. So there's technically no risk of you going to OTAs, right? Also, to the point of health and everything else, wouldn't it be better to kind of be in contact, which he has been? That's a fair point. He has been at the start. He has been there at times, just not specifically at OTAs and stuff like that, but he has been there. He's been in and out the building, right? Quote unquote. But don't you think that the medical staff with the Cowboys and having access to their trainers and everything else, you would think that the Cowboys would have a training staff and systems in place to where players wouldn't feel like they need to go and get their own individual trainers and people like that to keep their bodies up to par. But even with that statement being made, that is a very, very powerful statement as far as he has no other equity to offer the Cowboys. He has nothing else to offer outside of being Micah Parsons, the football player, and that's why he's there. And I get it. Your body is 100% your biggest investment. Is easily your biggest asset, right? So whatever you feel is best for your body, you know your body better than anybody, bro. Whatever you feel is best for your body, I can't argue against that. That's something that just really can't be argued. We can't tell Micah what's best for his body. Micah knows what's best for his body. All I'm wanting to do is ask Micah those extra questions to kind of make him really fill out his thought process and really make sure he's considering every course of action that can take place based off of his actions, right? That's the thing I would challenge as far as Micah. But this is a very, very powerful sentiment, and it's very true. If he's not ready, if his body's not working, it's going to be next man up. We hear that in sports all the time, regardless of how great the players were. When Dak went down, it was next man up, and that's facts, y'all. That's 100% facts. So if Micah feels like he can get his body ready better than the Cowboys can get his body ready in a voluntary activity, I can't really get mad at that. All I can say is that sentiment better show up with your health and show up on the field. That's all I'm going to say. Now, the part that I feel Cowboys fans are probably going to lose their ish about. I don't think people are going to be happy about this quote, y'all. This is John Machota. He says, Micah Parsons joked that he and new defensive coordinator Mike Zimmer haven't talked much. He's a very quiet person. All I keep hearing from the coaches is that Zim likes it this way, but I like it this way. I can't wait to have my true sit down with him. Okay, I am not sure how that statement comes across to most of y'all, but how it comes across to me is that Micah is essentially already, without actually having a real sit down with him yet, because that was something that Mike Zimmer gave Micah the courtesy of. He didn't comment on his plans for Micah or how he was going to interact with Micah before he actually sat down and talked to Micah. And Mike Zimmer, he made that very clear in all of his interviews he's done since being hired here. He was not going to discuss the dynamic between himself and Micah until they sat down and really talked to each other. Micah already is pretty much saying, hey, I'm not just going to be okay with doing everything the way Zim wants it done. I like things a certain way too, and we need to find a middle ground on certain things. That's kind of how that comes across to me. Don't know how that's going to fly with Mike Zimmer. I'm going to be real. I do not know how that's going to fly with Mike Zimmer. I think that approach may have worked with a Dan Quinn, somebody a little bit more passive, somebody that was a little bit more willing to listen to other people's feedback on how he was going to run his system and what he allowed players to do. I think Mike Zimmer has a ready-made plan for what he wants to do with these guys and how he's going to use them. I just don't know if there's much input that's really needed as far as from Mike Zimmer's perspective, as far as how he's going to do his job. Because at the end of the day, his job is being a defensive coordinator, and Micah's essentially saying, regardless of what his job is, there's a way I like to do things as well. So that right there is probably the one thing that he said this whole time that I was like, I don't know, Micah. I don't know if that was the best thing to say right there, but I'm not gonna overanalyze every little thing this dude said. So let's keep moving. I think it'll be pretty cool because obviously old school mindset, old school mentality. He's had a lot of great players, but he ain't never had a Micah before. It'll be fun, and I think it'll be unique. There's some things that I got to get used to too. It's gonna be a compromising relationship. This is gonna be interesting. This is gonna be something to keep an eye on throughout the season. I think any reports that may come out about Zim and Mike not being on the same page, now I'm going to be inclined to believe them because of these statements that was just made, because Mike has pretty much said there's going to have to be compromise on both sides because there's this relationship, right? Telling your coach he's going to have to compromise before actually sitting down with him for real, don't know if that's the best move there. What's the old saying? Players play, coaches coach. I think Mike Zimmer's going to hit you with that one, Mike. I think Mike Zimmer's going to hit you with the, hey, buddy, I'm the one on a 1-year contract. I'm the one who's going to lose his job if this defense doesn't do what I needed to do. I can't afford to be compromising and not trying to implement my system the way I want it done at the cost of having to compromise with one of my players. Because at the end of the day, if that defense fails, it's Mike Zimmer's head that's going to roll. Nobody else's, right? So I don't know about that. I don't know about that approach, Micah. All in all, I like a lot of what he was saying. And honestly, a lot of what he was saying has kind of swayed my original stance on, kind of side-eyeing him all crazy because he missed OTAs. I still feel like there's value in being there. I still feel like if he's going to talk about being a leader all summer, he has to do the things that shows he's trying to be a leader, which is going to the things that you don't necessarily have to go to, right? So I'm inclined to actually side with Micah a lot on this. I would say that overall, I understood what Micah was saying. I could appreciate the reasoning that he gave for why he wasn't at the OTAs. I don't think it's a big enough thing that we need to continue to harp on it. But I would just caution Micah, just be a little bit more selective and measured with the things that you say. Even with this Mike Zimmer comment, I'm just not sure how that's going to go over with everybody, right? But either way, we still them same old Cowboys. Let me know down in the comments below, how did you take all of this? What did you take from this Micah Parsons interview, and how do you feel about it? Let me know down in the comments below. I'll see you guys on the next one.
Calling me, texting me, paging me, asking me, am I still in ball? Y'all usually check on me. Listen. I'm still in boys. Hey! Woo! Oh, shut up, my boy. Hey! I'm still in boys.